I didn't understand what Arthur meant at first. His voice was urgent but low, as if the coat racks could hear. His hands were trembling as he handed me the envelope. "This was hidden in the lining," he said. "Your daughter-in-law dropped it off yesterday." My fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside, a folded piece of paper, slightly wrinkled, printed in bold black ink. "Final instructions, October 17th. Transfer pickup time, 3:30 p.m. Location, southbound entrance lot D. Names, Sophia Graves F6, Milo Graves M4. Payment in cash upon delivery." I stared at it for too long. My name wasn't on it. Neither was my son's. Only the children. Arthur touched my elbow. "I've known you for years. This isn't normal. I'm telling you as a friend." I nodded slowly, my throat tight. My stomach turned to water. I thanked him barely and walked out without the coat. The cold air didn't even register. She was speaking in Spanish, fast and quiet when I stepped into the house. I don't speak much of the language, but I recognized urgency. Her hand cupped the phone close to her mouth, her eyes flicking toward the hallway as I passed. Then laughter, forced and brief, like she realized I was home. I didn't interrupt. I walked straight to my room, the envelope still warm under my sweater. I slipped it between the pages of an old ledger book in my bottom drawer, the kind no one touches but me. When I returned, the house smelled faintly of her perfume, lavender and sugar. It always clung to the doorknobs, to the throw pillows, to the little pink coffee mug she insisted on using, though it had a crack along the side. The coat hung where I'd left it, still zipped, still innocent to any outsider. But now I couldn't look at it without remembering what had been sewn inside. Camilla came into the hallway just as I was pretending to rearrange the hooks. "Oh, good. You picked it up?" she asked, nodding toward the coat. I smiled. "Yeah, they did a nice job." "Great," she said, already moving on. "I'll need it tomorrow." I nodded again. I didn't tell her I'd already searched every seam, that the tailor at the dry cleaner had carefully removed the hidden pouch, re-sewn the lining like nothing had ever been there. Arthur was good like that. He knew what was at stake without being told. Later that evening, I helped Sophia with her math homework. She asked if I'd ever been to Mexico. I froze for a second before answering. "Once," I said, "a long time ago." Milo was in the living room stacking blocks. Camilla was in the kitchen, FaceTiming with someone, her voice lilting and affectionate, completely different from earlier. Ben wouldn't be home until Friday. The coat stayed on the hook all night. I couldn't bring myself to touch it again, but I watched it the way you might watch a locked door, half expecting it to swing open on its own. She forgot Milo twice last spring, once from daycare, once from speech therapy. The first time, she blamed traffic. The second time, she said her phone had died and she'd lost track of time. I believed her. We all did. After all, young moms juggle so much, don't they? She joked about the second phone. "It's just for coupon apps," she said, waving it off like it was cute. I remember thinking that was strange, but then she handed me a grocery receipt with $5 off our usual coffee, and I let it go. Maybe she was just frugal. I'd walked in on her whispering more than once after midnight, the glow of her screen lighting up her face like she was confessing to someone. She'd quickly switch to a Pinterest board or an email draft and say, "Just looking at birthday ideas." I told myself it was nothing. Every mother deserves a little privacy. Once, I found Sophia's jacket shoved into the trash bin outside. When I pulled it out, the sleeve was ripped clean through. Camilla shrugged. "She's clumsy. She tripped again." Sophia didn't say a word when I asked. She just looked at her feet and nodded, even the way she held them sometimes, like they weren't hers, but something she had to manage, to control. Her hugs were too tight, her voice too sweet in public. But I stayed silent. I didn't want to start a war in my own home. I didn't want to be the bitter mother-in-law, the one who never approved. And now I was staring down at proof that went beyond bad instincts or careless mistakes. This was planned, coordinated, named. I opened the envelope again that night, read it until the words blurred. The name J.C. Cortez stared back like a signature at the end of a threat. I folded it back slowly, my hands no steadier than they'd been the first time. Tomorrow I would make a call, one I should have made long ago. I waited until the house was quiet, until Milo's soft breathing and Sophia's slow-turning nightlight confirmed they were safely asleep. I took the envelope from the drawer and read each line with sharper eyes. That name, J. Cortez, hovered near the bottom like a signature no one expected you to notice. But I saw it now, I typed it into my browser, half expecting nothing to come up. Just a name, just a hunch. But there it was. A forum post on a dark-tinged parenting site, a foreign news article half-translated, a PDF report issued by a nonprofit watchdog buried in search results. Cortez, alias linked to illegal overseas adoptions, unregulated child transfers, facilitated extractions, they called them. The language was cold, technical, meant to sound legitimate, but it wasn't. The more I read, the clearer it became. He didn't work alone. There were women, mothers, who acted as intermediaries. The report said they sometimes disguised it as a custody handoff or even vacation travel. Children vanished under the guise of a better life. No paper trail, no return. The email in my hand, the one from Camilla's coat, matched the language exactly. There was no longer a question of misunderstanding. This was real. This was them. I sat back, breath caught somewhere between a sob and a scream. How long had she been planning this? How close had we come to letting them disappear without a trace? I reached for my phone. My hands wouldn't cooperate at first, but I managed to tap the name I hadn't used in years, Victoria. And when she answered, I didn't cry. I didn't explain. I just said, "It's happening. I need your help." Victoria called back less than 20 minutes after I sent the files. "Karina," she said, her voice low, "you did the right thing." Then came 5 seconds of silence, like she was holding something back. "The name Cortez. He's flagged in 4 open cases. Interstate and international jurisdiction. We've been trying to find a domestic link." She didn't need to say it out loud. My stomach had already turned cold. "I need you to promise me something," she said. "Don't confront Camilla. Don't even hint that you know. Let us work. Let her believe she's still in control." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "What do I do in the meantime?" "Stay close to the kids. No changes in routine. Our team will begin surveillance by tomorrow morning. If she's planning something, we'll catch it." We spoke in short, clipped sentences, like if we used too many words, it might all fall apart. When I hung up, I sat for a long time at the edge of the bed, just listening. The house was still. Outside, I heard nothing but the rustle of dry leaves on the porch. The next morning, I made pancakes shaped like stars. Sophia called them lucky moons. I packed their lunches with extra apple slices. I kissed their foreheads longer than usual when I tucked them in. Camilla didn't notice anything. She was busy replying to messages, smiling at something on her phone. When I offered her tea, she declined with a yawn and disappeared upstairs. The coat was back in the closet. I looked at it briefly, then closed the door. I cleaned the kitchen slowly, every movement deliberate, like washing away the day might help erase what was coming. And when I sat alone at the table, watching the little magnet drawings on the fridge sway in the breeze from the open window, I knew what I had to do the next day. I would wait. I would act normal. I would keep my hands steady until they didn't need to be. Camilla left around 10 o'clock, saying she had brunch with a friend from college. She was dressed too sharply for pancakes. I waited until her car disappeared down the hill before I moved. The kids were in the living room watching cartoons, wrapped in the kind of calm that comes only when they feel completely safe. I kept the baby monitor on the counter just in case and climbed the stairs to her room. It was the one place I never entered, not out of fear, but respect, and maybe because I didn't want to know what I might find. But now I had no choice. I started with the obvious: drawers, closet shelves under the dresser, nothing but workout gear and half-folded laundry. Then I knelt beside the bed and reached beneath. The suitcase was tucked far back behind a box of maternity clothes. Black hard shell, locked. I used a bobby pin from my own pocket to snap it open. It gave easily. That alone told me she hadn't expected anyone would ever try. Inside, a stack of clothing, pre-folded, ready for departure. Beneath it, 3 printed plane tickets. 1 adult, 2 children. Outbound from Charlotte. Destination, Honduras. My hand shook as I pulled out the next item, a small envelope with 3 passports. Not theirs. Fakes. New names, new birth dates. Camilla had given Sophia a different middle name. Milo's photo was taken in our own backyard. I recognized the fence behind him. And at the bottom, a small stack of printed photographs. Camilla with a man I'd never seen in person but recognized immediately from the reports. Sunglasses, white shirt, close smile. Cortez. There was no ticket for Ben. He wasn't part of her future. I zipped everything back, careful to leave no trace. I shoved the bag back exactly as I'd found it. As I closed the door behind me, I heard Sophia laugh from downstairs. I walked back into the kitchen and sliced apples for their snack with a steadiness I didn't feel. The surveillance team was arriving in the morning. All I had to do now was hold. They stayed there, just as Victoria had promised. An unmarked car parked across from our porch. 2 agents, one posed as a couple arguing over dog training, the other a jogger who never seemed to break a sweat. Victoria had said they'd blend in, and they did. To anyone else, they were just neighbors. Inside, I kept the rhythm of our days. Toast with strawberry jam, cereal for Milo, chocolate milk only if Sophia finished her eggs. I kept smiling, asking about spelling quizzes and playdates. Camilla didn't notice the thing. Why would she? I had never challenged her before. She thought I was soft, but I watched her more closely now. I saw the way her fingers flew across her burner phone when she thought no one was watching. How her voice dropped to a near whisper in the laundry room. How she cleared her browser history every night before bed. She kissed the kids with more affection than usual, overcompensating, practicing, and I noticed she started folding their clothes into neat piles in advance, like packing in her mind before the bags ever moved. Ben called one night to say his trip was going longer than expected. Camilla barely reacted. "All good here," she chirped. "Mom's been really helpful." She glanced over at me, smiling like we shared a secret. I nodded back, biting the inside of my cheek. Victoria checked in every night. "No sudden moves," she repeated. "We need her to believe she's safe." And so I stayed still. I braided Sophia's hair each morning, tied Milo's shoes with quiet care. I packed snacks and slipped love notes into lunchboxes. Little things I used to do before I felt invisible in my own home. But now every moment had weight. Every bedtime story, every dish I dried, it all had purpose. Camilla started wearing the coat again. Maybe she thought the heat had passed, or maybe she thought she'd won. She came downstairs wearing lipstick. It was barely 9:00 a.m. when she began moving around the kitchen, humming. Her voice was high, tight. I watched her pour juice she didn't drink and fuss with snacks she wouldn't eat. Her phone buzzed once, and she checked the screen quickly before slipping it into her back pocket. Not the main phone, the burner. By noon, her nerves were leaking through the smile. She kept looking out the window, pacing. She didn't eat lunch, just sipped water, checked her watch, and asked twice if the kids had enough sunscreen. At 2:44 p.m., the burner buzzed again. I saw her eyes flicker as she read the message. "Pickup rescheduled, 3:30 p.m., location unchanged, bring children and documents." She didn't say anything to me, just bent down, kissed Milo on the cheek, and told Sophia they'd bring back leaves for their school project. "I won't be long," she said, grabbing the pre-packed bag from under the coat rack. I nodded, folding laundry that didn't need folding. Camilla reached for her keys, slung the bag over her shoulder, and took the children's hands. She pulled the door open. She didn't make it to the car. 3 agents stepped out from across the street, silent, calm, direct. Another car blocked the driveway before she could react. She tried to pull the kids close, but an agent gently guided them away. Sophia looked confused. Milo clutched his stuffed bear. Camilla's smile shattered as they opened the bag. 2 fake birth certificates, 1 fake passport, the burner phone full of messages to Cortez, coordinates, confirmation, updates. She turned to me, stunned. I didn't speak. Victoria stepped forward, identified herself, and read Camilla her rights. Camilla didn't cry. She just stood frozen as they led her to the car. Inside the house, Sophia reached for my hand. I told her everything was okay now. She believed me. And when Ben came home the next morning, I was waiting for him with the truth. Ben walked through the door just after 10 the next morning, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes rimmed red. He didn't say anything at first, just dropped his duffel by the coat rack and looked at me. "Where are the kids?" he asked. "In their room." "They're okay?" I nodded. He exhaled, then sank into the kitchen chair like something inside him had been torn loose. I sat across from him and placed the folder on the table. I didn't rush. I didn't dramatize. I just told him the truth. The email, the fake IDs, the burner phone, the text about the pickup, the FBI, the photos with Cortez, each piece one by one, like laying out a map of a world he never knew he'd been living in. Ben didn't interrupt. He didn't nod. He barely blinked. When I finished, he leaned forward, buried his face in his hands, and stayed like that for a long time. "She would have taken them," he said finally, his voice hollow. "She would have erased us." I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. I gave him his silence. "She said she loved them," he said again, softer. "She called them her babies." He shook his head slowly, "and she was planning this the whole time." He lifted his head just enough to look at the photos I'd laid out. Milo's fake passport, Sophia's birth certificate under a different last name. His eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. He was too stunned for that. Then his body shifted. He stood, walked to their room, and opened the door gently. Milo was building a tower with blocks. Sophia was coloring by the window. Ben walked in slowly, knelt between them, and wrapped both arms around them so tightly I could see his shoulders tremble. Sophia blinked, confused. Milo hugged back without a word. He didn't let go for minutes. When he stood again, I saw something new in his face, something settled, broken, and clear. "I'm not leaving again," he said. "Not for a while." The next morning, we packed up the house. The new house was smaller, quieter. No marble countertops, no designer lights, but it had what we needed. Sunlight in the mornings, a decent yard, and doors that didn't echo with anything unsaid. Ben found a job nearby, nothing fancy. He said he didn't care about titles anymore. He drove the kids to school each morning while I packed their lunches and braided Sophia's hair just the way she liked. On weekends, we made pancakes shaped like stars again. The nightmares came and went. Milo would sometimes wake up crying, unsure why. Sophia stopped asking when Camilla was coming back. We didn't talk about her often, not because we couldn't, but because the silence was softer than the truth. Then, one afternoon, while I was rinsing out the paintbrushes from their art set, Sophia tugged at my sleeve. "Can I put this on the fridge?" she asked. She held up a crayon drawing on thick white paper. 4 figures, one tall with glasses, Ben, one with gray hair and a pink dress, me. 2 small ones in the middle, Milo with his stuffed bear, and Sophia herself with yellow pigtails. I looked at it for a long time, not because it was missing someone, but because it wasn't. She handed me a piece of tape. I knelt beside her and helped press the drawing onto the cool metal surface of the fridge door. Then I opened the drawer and pulled out one of the old magnets, red with a chipped corner, and placed it over the top edge. Sophia smiled, then skipped off to join Milo on the porch. I stood there a while longer, eyes on that picture. There was no eraser in her lines, no bitterness, just clarity, drawn in crayon and truth. That evening, as I made dinner, I glanced at it again, her new version of family. Simple, honest, complete. Ben walked in with a bag of groceries and saw me staring at the fridge. He smiled, quiet and grateful. Then he said, "We're going to be okay, aren't we?" I nodded and stirred the soup. For the first time in a long while, the house didn't feel like it was holding its breath. There was peace in the corners, warmth in the air. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the sound of the children's laughter through the open window. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't before. Surviving wasn't about what we'd lost. It was about what we'd finally kept. I reached over and turned down the stove, the scent of dinner filling the room. When Ben passed behind me, he brushed my shoulder lightly, the same way he used to when we were younger. We didn't need to say anything. The quiet said enough. Later that night, when the kids were asleep, I stood in the hallway, the moonlight catching the edge of the framed drawings on the wall. Each one was a memory they had chosen to keep. Milo's crooked house, Sophia's stars, our family beneath a bright sun. None of it perfect, but all of it ours. I thought about everything that could have been lost. And then I thought of Arthur, the envelope, Victoria's calm voice on the phone, every choice that led us here. I whispered a thank you, to God, to fate, to the quiet courage that had kept me moving when fear tried to stop me. The world outside was still uncertain, always would be, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I went to bed that night knowing that no matter what came next, my family was safe. And when morning light touched the curtains, I heard Sophia's small footsteps padding down the hallway. "Mama," she said softly, "can we make Lucky Moons again?" I smiled, reaching for the pan. "Yes," I said, "let's make them together."